Look at your arm. Picture walking into a quiet, warm clinic. A doctor you have known for years pats your shoulder, smiles, and tells you to roll up your sleeve. He says it is a routine vitamin shot. You trust him. You have no reason not to. You let him slide the cold metal needle deep into your skin. But he is lying. He did not give you a vitamin. He gave you a deadly, painful infection. He did it on purpose because he wanted to watch your body rot. The worst part of this is that his work was paid for by the government. The man who did this was praised as a hero for decades. This story starts in 1943. The world was at war, and thousands of young soldiers were being shipped across the sea to fight. But the military was fighting a second enemy, one they could not shoot. It was diseases. Gonorrhea and syphilis were spreading through the military camps, putting more men out of action than combat wounds. The government was desperate for a cure, or at least a way to stop the infection before it destroyed their armies. So they started testing. They began their work inside a federal prison in Terre Haute, Indiana. The lead researcher was a man named John Cutler. At first, they did things the way we expect doctors to behave. They asked the prisoners for permission. The inmates who agreed to help got paid $100. They got certificates, and the doctors wrote nice letters to their parole boards. It was clean, it was official. But the science was a complete failure. Cutler could not get the infections to take hold in a regular scientific way. The prison guards started complaining because the procedures looked too cruel. The inmates got tired of the constant painful blood tests, and they began standing up for their rights. They began saying no. The prison study was shut down. Cutler was furious. He realized that if he wanted to get his results, he had to find a place where the people could never say no. He needed a place with no rules, no lawyers, and no one watching. He chose Guatemala. In 1946, Cutler packed his bags and flew to Guatemala City. He met a local doctor named Juan Funes. Together, they planned a project that was completely hidden from the public. They wanted to test a new drug called penicillin. Penicillin was a wonder medicine, but they needed to know the exact dosage to cure a sick person. To find that out, they first had to make healthy people sick. Think about what a doctor has to do to make that happen. Cutler started with sex workers. He paid women who already had the disease, and he infected others who were healthy. Then, he sent them into the barracks and the prisons to sleep with the soldiers and the inmates. He was using these women as human syringes, waiting for the sickness to pass from body to body. But nature was too slow. Some of the soldiers stayed healthy. Many of the prisoners did not get sick. Cutler got impatient. He had a budget, he had a timeline, and his bosses in Washington wanted results. He stopped relying on the sex workers. He decided to infect people directly with his own hands. He went to the National Psychiatric Hospital. He went to state prisons. He went to orphanages and military camps. These people were completely helpless, locked away from the rest of the world. Most of them did not speak Spanish, let alone English. They spoke Mayan languages. They had no idea what Cutler was doing. They were told they were getting medicine to keep them healthy. Instead, the doctors injected the live, active bacteria straight into their bodies. They pushed the needles into their arms. They pushed them into their spines. Sometimes they scraped the skin on a soldier's arm until it bled, then poured the infected fluid directly into the raw flesh. They even took paper cups filled with the bacteria and strapped them to the men's skin for hours, waiting for the infection to eat its way inside. They did this to over 1,300 people, and for decades, the files stayed hidden in cardboard boxes. But there is a part of the story that will make your blood run cold. It is the story of one woman, a patient named Berta. What they did to her was so extreme, so unbelievably cruel, that it shows how far these doctors were willing to go when they thought no one was watching. Berta was a patient in the mental hospital. She was already weak, fighting a lung disease, but she was alive. In 1948, Cutler made her his next subject. He did not ask her. He infected her with syphilis. Over the next few months, Berta grew sicker and sicker. Her body was fighting two heavy illnesses at once. Cutler watched her. He did not give her the penicillin to cure her. He wanted to see how far the disease would go. He took photographs of her face as her skin broke out in deep sores, noting down her decline like he was studying a laboratory animal. Then, when Berta was on the very edge of death, Cutler decided to run one more test. He took gonorrhea bacteria and dripped it directly into her eyes. He wanted to see if a body that was already dying could catch a second infection in the eyes. Her eyes swelled shut. She lay in her hospital bed, blind, covered in sores, suffocating. A few days later, Berta died. The doctors did an autopsy, packed up their charts, and moved to the next bed. To them, Berta was not a mother or a sister. She was a data point. By 1948, the money for the project began to run out. The world was changing too. The trials in Germany after the war made people realize that you cannot perform medical experiments on humans without their consent. Cutler knew that if the public found out about Guatemala, his career would end. So he packed his files. He gathered all the charts, the letters, and the photographs of Berta. He put them in cardboard boxes. He did not destroy them. He kept them in his house, and later he donated them to a university library. He hid them in the archives where no one would think to look. For 60 years, those boxes sat in the dark. Cutler lived a long, comfortable life. He became a respected professor, teaching young students about public health. He went to big dinners, received awards, and was a pillar of the scientific community. He died peacefully in his sleep, a highly respected man. But then, in 2010, a historian named Susan Reverby was looking through those old archives. She was researching a completely different study. As she was flipping through the folders, she found Cutler's boxes. She opened them. She saw the charts. She saw the letters. She saw the photographs of Berta. She realized she was holding the proof of a secret government crime. When the news broke, it shocked the world. The American government had to admit what they did. The president had to call the leader of Guatemala and apologize, calling it a tragedy, a dark chapter in history. But an apology does not cure the pain. It does not bring Berta back. Many of the victims in Guatemala went on to have families. They passed the diseases to their wives and then to their children. Generations of people suffered from blindness, heart damage, and early death, all because of a secret experiment paid for by U.S. taxpayers. A group of survivors tried to sue. They took the university and the government to court, wanting help with their medical bills. They wanted some form of justice. But the courts threw the case out. They said you cannot sue the government for things that happened so long ago under different rules. John Cutler never went to jail. Juan Funes never went to jail. Nobody lost their medical license. The doctors who planned this died with medals on their chests, while their victims died in poverty, forgotten by the world. It makes you think about trust. We are taught to trust people in white coats, to believe our leaders when they say they are keeping us safe. But history shows that sometimes, behind the closed doors of a laboratory, the people we trust can become monsters. Remember Berta. Remember the people of Guatemala who were treated like lab rats in the dark. Their stories were hidden in cardboard boxes, but they deserve to be told. They deserve to be remembered, so we never let it happen again.